The cafeteria was loud that morning, a mix of laughter, trays clattering, and teachers trying to keep order. But Maya's world went completely silent the moment she unfolded the small note from her son's lunchbox. Her hands trembled before she even finished reading the first line. The note wasn't in her handwriting. It wasn't Ethan's either. It was written neatly, in blue ink, and signed with a name she didn't recognize. "Your son shared half his sandwich with me today because I didn't have any lunch. He said, 'My mom says no one should eat alone. You raised a good boy.'" Her throat tightened. For a second, she couldn't breathe. She blinked fast, trying to hold back tears, but they came anyway, quietly, uncontrollably. She covered her mouth, hoping no one would notice, but one of the teachers nearby saw her shaking and hurried over. "Maya, are you okay?" She handed the note to the teacher without a word. The woman read it and smiled softly. "Looks like someone's being raised right." Maya let out a shaky laugh. I didn't know he noticed when I said things like that." All those nights, she'd come home late from the diner, too tired to cook but determined to make his next day lunch just right. Cutting sandwiches into uneven triangles, tucking in tiny notes that said, "Be kind," or "You're my sunshine." She'd wondered if any of it mattered. Now she knew it did. That afternoon, when she picked Ethan up from school, he came running with his backpack bouncing. "Mommy, I got in a little bit of trouble," he said, out of breath. Her heart jumped. "What happened?" He looked down, scuffing his shoe against the pavement. "I gave my lunch to a boy who didn't have one. The teacher said I should have told her first." She knelt to his level, brushing hair from his forehead. "Why did you do it?" He shrugged. "Because you always share with me when there's only one cookie left." Her chest tightened again, the same wave of emotion rushing back. "Did he eat it?" He nodded. He smiled. She pulled him into her arms right there on the sidewalk, not caring who was watching. "You did the right thing, baby." That night, when she packed his lunch, she added an extra sandwich, just in case. She also wrote a note and placed it on top. "To whoever might need it today, this one's for you. And thank you for reminding me what kindness looks like." The next day, when Ethan came home, there was another note waiting in his lunchbox. "Tell your mom the sandwich was delicious. And tell her she made my whole week better." Underneath it was a small folded napkin, and written in crayon, in messy kid handwriting, were 4 words that made Maya cry all over again. "We shared again today." Weeks passed, and the notes kept coming, sometimes from kids, sometimes from parents who'd heard the story. Soon, the entire class started a Lunchbox kindness project. Every week, one child left an extra snack with a small message. The teachers said the fights at recess stopped, and laughter started filling the cafeteria again. At the end of the month, the principal called Maya in for a small ceremony. "You started something without even knowing it," she said. "Kindness spreads faster than rules ever will." Maya looked at Ethan standing beside her, clutching his little red lunchbox. "He's the one who started it," she said softly. That night, she taped the first note, the one that started it all, on their fridge door. Every morning when she made his lunch, she looked at it and whispered, "Keep being kind, my little sunshine." And every day, Ethan went to school with one sandwich for himself and one for whoever might need it. Because sometimes the smallest acts of love, tucked between slices of bread and scribbled notes, can feed the hearts of strangers more than food ever could. A week later, the mornings felt brighter, lighter somehow, even before the sun touched the kitchen window. Maya moved quietly around the counter, her hands steady now instead of rushed. She spread peanut butter across the soft bread, added jam, and wrapped 2 sandwiches, one for Ethan and one labeled simply extra. Ethan sat at the table swinging his legs, humming a tune he'd made up, while his little red lunchbox waited open in front of him. "Mommy," he said between hums, "can I write the note today?" She smiled. "Of course. What will you say?" He thought for a moment, tongue sticking out in concentration as he wrote with his small pencil. When he handed it to her, the words made her heart twist. "If you're sad today, you can sit with me." She kissed the top of his head. "That's perfect." That morning, she walked him to school, holding his hand until the last possible second. She didn't know why, but something about the world felt bigger now, softer in the corners. Parents she didn't even know smiled at her as she passed. One woman stopped to say, "Are you the mom with the lunchbox notes? My son talks about your boy all the time." Maya blushed. "I guess that's us." He's made the other kids start writing notes too, the woman said. They even have a board now. Messages that matter. They post them after lunch. You should come see it sometime. When Maya got to work that day, she couldn't focus. Between refilling coffee and delivering orders, her mind kept wandering to that board. At her break, she texted the teacher. Would it be okay if I stopped by the cafeteria tomorrow? The reply came back instantly. You'd better bring tissues. The next afternoon she arrived just before lunch. The hall buzzed with voices and laughter, and there on the far wall was a colorful display covered in sticky notes, drawings, and small folded messages. In the middle, written in bright red marker, were the words, "The Lunchbox Project, started by Ethan and his mom." Maya pressed a hand to her mouth. Her son's handwriting was all over the board. Little hearts, doodles, and short phrases like, "Be brave. You can sit with me. You're not alone." Other children had added their own. Some were funny, some simple, some heartbreakingly honest. My dad left, but my friends stayed. I shared my chips today, and it felt good. A teacher approached quietly. It's amazing, isn't it? Your son reminded them what it means to care. It's spreading to other classes too. Maya's eyes blurred. He just wanted someone to have lunch. And now everyone's having it together, the teacher said softly. When Ethan spotted her, he ran across the room, his grin wide. Mommy, look. They put our notes on the wall. Even Mr. Peterson wrote one. She laughed through her tears. What did he write? Ethan pointed proudly. It says, kindness tastes better than pizza. That night, as they walked home hand in hand, the streetlights flickered on, painting the sidewalk gold. Mommy, Ethan asked, do you think Daddy would like my notes too? Her steps slowed. I think he would be very proud of you. He smiled at the sky. Then maybe I'll write one for him tomorrow. The next morning, she found a new note in his lunchbox. In his small, crooked handwriting, it read, Dear Daddy, I don't know where you are, but I hope someone shares their sandwich with you today. Love, Ethan. Her tears fell before she could stop them. She pressed the note against her chest, whispering, He's got your heart. Weeks turned into months. The Lunchbox project spread beyond their school. Other districts joined in, parents posted photos online, and letters poured in from teachers across the city saying how one little boy and his mother had changed lunchtimes forever. On Ethan's 8th birthday, the principal called them to the stage at assembly. The entire school cheered as she handed him a small certificate. For reminding us that kindness doesn't need a reason, she said. Maya knelt beside him as cameras flashed. You proud of yourself, my sunshine? He grinned. I'm proud of us. That night, as they sat at the table, the red lunchbox between them, Maya placed her hand on his. You know, she said softly, sometimes when we think no one's watching, the world is quietly learning from us. Ethan tilted his head. Then we have to keep teaching, right? She nodded, her eyes glistening. Always. The next morning, another note went into the box, written in both their hands this time. If you're hungry, take a sandwich. If you're lonely, take a seat. If you're sad, take a smile. Love spreads faster than anything else. And in that simple message, carried to another small cafeteria somewhere, a new kindness began again. Proof that one shared lunch and one heartfelt note could ripple across the world. Spring melted softly into summer, and the cafeteria that once buzzed with scattered chatter had turned into something magical. The Lunchbox project wasn't just a board anymore. It had become a movement. Every classroom had its own wall of notes now, covered with color, drawings, and kind words that fluttered like tiny flags of hope. Teachers started reading one note every morning to begin the day. Some kids even left extra snacks in a shared basket near the door. Maya never stopped being amazed. Her little boy, the same shy, gentle soul who once whispered that no one should eat alone, had started something she could barely keep up with. One Friday morning, she received a letter from the school's district office. Her hands shook slightly as she opened it. Inside was a printed invitation bordered in gold. You are invited to the citywide kindness assembly. The Lunchbox project, founded by Ethan and his mother, will be honored for inspiring acts of compassion in over 40 schools. She read it twice before she could breathe again. When Ethan came home that afternoon, his backpack swinging, she showed him the letter. He gasped so loudly she laughed. Mommy, they're talking about our notes. Yes, she said softly, tears threatening again. They're talking about your heart. He grinned and hugged her tightly. Can we make more sandwiches for the big day? Sweetheart, it's not a picnic, she teased, but he was already running to the kitchen. By the day of the ceremony, the school auditorium was packed. Children held handmade signs that said, "Kindness matters," and "Ethan's notes forever." Cameras flashed, but Maya's world slowed when she saw her son walking across the stage in his small blue blazer, his red lunchbox still in hand. The superintendent smiled warmly. When we teach math, we measure numbers. When we teach kindness, we measure hearts. And this young man has taught us that hearts grow when they're shared. The applause roared. Ethan blushed, then tugged his mother onto the stage. She froze, whispering, "Ethan, what are you doing?" He just grinned. "You're part of this too." The superintendent leaned in with a microphone. "Would you like to say something, Mrs. Carter?" Maya swallowed hard. "I don't think I have the words." Ethan tugged her sleeve, whispering, "You always say love is a word too big for paper." The crowd chuckled. Maya smiled through tears. "Then I guess that's true," she said into the microphone. "I just wanted my son to grow up kind. I never imagined kindness would grow up with him." The room fell silent for a heartbeat, then erupted into applause. Reporters called it the Lunchbox Revolution. Parents wrote emails saying they'd started packing extra lunches for kids in their neighborhoods. One local paper printed Ethan's original note, the one that started it all, with a headline that read, "If you're sad, you can sit with me." Later that evening, after the crowd faded and the flash of cameras died, Maya and Ethan walked home beneath a sky streaked with soft pink clouds. He swung his lunchbox at his side, humming happily. "Mommy," he said quietly, "do you think Daddy knows about the notes?" She squeezed his hand. "I think he does. I think he's very proud of you." Ethan smiled. "Maybe he's leaving notes where he is too." She nodded, her throat tight. "Maybe he is." When they reached home, she opened the red lunchbox to wash it, but something new caught her eye, a folded piece of paper she hadn't packed. Her heart skipped. She unfolded it slowly, and her vision blurred as she read the words written in messy blue pen. "To the mom who taught my friend to be kind, thank you for teaching me to. I used to think being quiet made me invisible, but now I write notes too. Today, someone smiled at mine. It felt like magic." At the bottom was a small drawing of two lunchboxes side by side, and a signature, "Your friend, Liam." Maya pressed the note to her heart, her tears falling freely this time. That weekend, she and Ethan went to the park where it had all begun. She watched as he handed out small paper slips to strangers sitting alone on benches. Some smiled in surprise, some teared up quietly. She walked over and read one of his new messages. "You don't need to know my name. Just know you matter." When the sun began to set, Ethan climbed onto the swing beside her, his small voice cutting through the evening breeze. "Mommy, do you think kindness ever stops?" She smiled, brushing a strand of hair from his face. "No, sweetheart. Kindness doesn't stop. It just finds new lunchboxes." He laughed softly, leaning his head on her arm. And in that quiet park, as the wind carried the sound of distant laughter and crickets began their nightly song, Maya realized that one simple note had become something much larger, a legacy written not in ink, but in hearts. By the time autumn returned, the Lunchbox Project had outgrown their small school and spread across the city. News crews came to film short clips of kids swapping sandwiches and laughter instead of stories about test scores and rules. Parents wrote letters saying how their children had stopped bullying, how lunchtime had become a time of peace. Maya sometimes sat in disbelief watching the news, tears falling as she saw strangers repeating words her little boy once wrote in crooked pencil. "You can sit with me." One crisp October morning, she walked Ethan to school through a tunnel of golden leaves. He wore his backpack proudly, the red lunchbox bouncing against his side. "Mommy," he said, "they're going to let me read my note on the radio today." "The radio?" she said, pretending to be shocked. "My little celebrity." He giggled. "I'm not a celebrity. I'm just Ethan." She smiled. "That's more than enough." When she dropped him off, teachers waved from the doors. The principal stopped her in the hallway. "Mrs. Carter," she said warmly, "the mayor's office reached out. They want to honor your son next week. Would you two be free?" Maya blinked. "The mayor? They're declaring it Kindness Week across the city. It started because of you." Maya laughed softly, still stunned. "Because of a sandwich and a note?" "Sometimes that's all it takes," the principal said. That weekend, while she was folding laundry, a soft knock came at the door. She opened it to find a man in a neatly pressed shirt holding a small gift bag. His smile was shy, uncertain. "Are you Maya Carter?" he asked. "Yes," she said cautiously. He held out the bag. "I'm Liam's dad. My son was the one Ethan shared his sandwich with. The first one." Her breath caught. "You're his father?" He nodded. "I was out of work then. Couldn't afford lunch some days. Liam never told me until he brought home your note. He said, 'Mommy's not here, but Ethan's mom wrote me one.' That night, he made me promise we'd always pack 2 lunches. One for him, one for whoever needed it." Tears filled her eyes before she could stop them. "You don't owe us anything." He smiled faintly. "We owe you more than you know. I got back on my feet last month. The note your son gave mine reminded me that even small kindnesses can rebuild a life." She opened the bag and froze. Inside was a framed drawing. 2 boys sitting on a cafeteria bench, one handing half a sandwich to the other. Above it, in colorful crayon letters, were the words, "The day friendship started." Her voice broke. "He drew this?" He nodded. "He said it's for Ethan. For his room." Maya couldn't speak for a moment. "Tell him we'll hang it above the red lunchbox." When she told Ethan that evening, his eyes lit up. "See, Mommy?" Kindness came back around. Days later, they stood in front of City Hall. Reporters crowded the steps, cameras flashing. The mayor handed Ethan a certificate and spoke into the microphone. "Sometimes heroes don't wear capes," he said. "Sometimes they carry lunchboxes." The crowd laughed and cheered, and Ethan looked up at his mom, beaming. "Can I say something?" he whispered. She nodded, stepping back. He took the microphone with both hands, voice small but strong. "My mommy always says you don't need to be big to make a difference. You just need to care. So if anyone here has an extra cookie, maybe share it today. That's how the world gets better." The entire crowd melted. Reporters wiped their eyes. Even the mayor crouched to shake his hand. That night, Maya tucked Ethan into bed and hung the framed drawing above his pillow. The red lunchbox sat beneath it, shining faintly in the lamplight. "Mommy," he murmured sleepily, "do you think people will still write notes when I'm grown up?" She brushed his hair back. "I think they'll still be writing them long after both of us are old." He smiled drowsily. "Then I want to make a big one someday. Big enough for everyone to read." She kissed his forehead. "You already have, my love." Years later, when Ethan grew taller than his mother and moved to a new school, the red lunchbox stayed on the shelf near the kitchen. Whenever the world seemed too heavy, Maya would look at it and remember. And whenever new students walked into that first school's cafeteria, they still found notes waiting for them, sometimes taped to juice boxes, sometimes tucked under apples. The handwriting had changed, the colors faded, but the message never did. "You can sit with me." Because one boy's kindness, born from a single sandwich and a mother's love, had turned into something no one could ever erase. If this story made you smile, share it with someone who needs a reminder that accidents can turn into beautiful beginnings.